Fight TBC, what's the deal? Um, so Showtime had rebroadcast this fight a few weeks ago, and I DVR'd it, and I never got a chance to watch it. I just watched it last night, and it was good to see Showtime, rebroadcast it. I actually watched it live when the pay-per-view happened, a few days after my 16th birthday. I actually watched it on the black box. Some of you fans up there probably know what the black box is. It's a little device where you can access pay-per-view channels you're supposed to pay for, you know what I mean? And one of my homeboys, he had the black box. But watch the fight, man. Huge Tyson fan. I was a Tyson fanboy, actually. I was the type of fanboy that would, and I've said this before, I would make excuses as to why Mike Tyson looked so bad against Francois Botha before he landed that short right hand that knocked both out. I was actually giving rounds to Tyson, you know what I mean? When Tyson had both his arm and he was trying to tangle it to break it, I was the type of guy like, yeah, break his fucking arm. He's holding you. Break his arm. I was extreme, just overboard, especially looking back at his hindsight as a grown man. Like, man, I was fucking extreme. But, man, just even when I watched this, and it's something about the 90s and big heavyweight fights happening in November. It was like everything was always happening around my birthday, probably a week after. But, or I remember the Foreman versus Moore fight was on my birthday. I remember that fight night too. You know what I mean? But anyways, to this fight, man, it was a huge fight. And just going back and looking at it and just, pointing different things out. I'm not going to go too much into the fight. We know what happened in the fight. But just looking at some of the other things. Going into that fight, Don King was trying to get Felix Savan out of the amateurs. And he was trying to get, because, Savan had just won a second gold medal at heavyweight. Not super heavyweight. Vladimir Klitschko won it at super heavyweight that year, 96, but at heavyweight, so 201 and under. But he was trying to get Savan out. They were turning down the fight with Lennox. According to Evander Holyfield in his book, Becoming Holyfield, I read that book a few years ago. It's a great book. Check it out, especially if you're a Evander Holyfield fan. You should check that book out, Becoming Holyfield. But in that book, Holyfield was talking about how Mike Tyson and his camp turned down, I believe it was $42 million. It was in the I believe it was $42 million to fight Lennox. Instead, they decided to fight what they believed a softer touch in Evander Holyfield. Now, it wasn't Mike Tyson that was saying, get me Evander Holyfield. His team came with the idea of Holyfield, and Tyson just said, all right, and he took the fight. Holyfield, and they always go back to say that Tyson and his team thought Holyfield was through after the bow fights, and then the Bobby Ches, and that Bobby Ches fight is here on YouTube, and it was at, I believe, MSG, and it's on YouTube, man. And Holyfield came out airing it out. It wasn't like he wasn't throwing punches or he was reluctant to throw shots. No, he came out airing it out. You know what I mean? And the loss. Let me rewind. And the loss to Tamor. All that coupled that people thought that Holyfield was done. But in the Bobby Ches fight, he was airing it out. Just that his shots really didn't have much effect on Ches. It didn't seem to. It just like he had no power. His punches had no snap. It's just then late down the stretch. It's just Holyfield was fighting a Holyfield fight, but it just something was missing, And credit to Ches, man. Ches was taking his shots and he was throwing back. And Holyfield, he was backing Ches up. He was doing what a typical Holyfield typically fought, but it just had no effect. You know what I mean? And then just what you've seen Holyfield go through with shorter fighters like a Burt Cooper, and just the fact that Bo was able to knock him out and hurt him in their first fight also, and just to have his success, you just didn't think. And then the fight against Ches, a much smaller fighter who spent most of his career all at cruiserweight, you just kind of thought that Holyfield's not going to have a chance against Mike Tyson. If he can get hurt by these guys and he can't put down Bobby Ches, well, he's not going to be able to put down Tyson. If he can't get Ches out of there quick, there's no way he's going to be able to do anything with Tyson. You know what I mean? So there was a reason. Now, people were probably just overlooking Holyfield's pedigree as a fighter, coming up from his amateur background, having a history with Tyson from the amateurs and, through their early pro career, and then the fights that were, signed and canceled, and then Tyson with the rib injury and then going to prison. It it was a legendary night. I can't lie. Even though I'm a Tyson fan, man, it was a legendary night, and this was the night I became a Holyfield fan. Um, he showed will and courage. No, I'm lying to you. It was the second fight. I get it mixed up. It was the second fight when he got his. That's a different video, but it was the second fight when I came just a for real fan of Evander Holyfield. But this fight, I had to respect him. And I respected Evander even earlier, but I was young. You know what I mean? So he was alright. You know what I mean? Evander was okay to me then when I was young. Around 12, 13, 14 years old. And then going into this fight, I was 16. So he was alright. And the both fight was cool, even though he lost. You know what I mean? And so going into this fight, going into them walking into the ring, Evander Holyfield comes into the church music. He's singing and, smiling. His face was greasy as hell, because he worked up a sweat in the locker room, in his dressing room, and, he's greased up. He was ready to go. Holyfield's ready to fight. He was ready to fight that night. And Holyfield's ready to fight when he's in his corner during the introductions or pre-introductions, when he's in his corner bouncing around and gyrating his hips back and forth, and he's smiling, but he's shaking his head no, but he got that half grin going. That's when Evander's ready to fight. You knew he was ready to fight that night. But in that moment, me and the people that were around me, we looked at it like, man, this dude is singing church songs. He is scared as hell. Who would sing a church song going to the ring? I mean, that's that's how small-minded I was back then. You know what I mean? Just that's how much of a fan I was of Tyson, where I thought Holyfield's confidence was him being scared to death going into that ring. I was sitting there like, man, this dude's singing Negro spirituals. Like, man, this motherfucker ain't ready. He's scared. And he happy because he about to get that $30 million paycheck. That's how I was looking at it then. But man, I was wrong. This dude was confident. He knew he was smiling because he knew the time had come, and he knew he was gonna be in for a tough fight. But he just was smiling because he knew the time had come for him to go in there and show the world that he's better than Mike Tyson on that night. Tyson comes to the ring, bumping one of my favorite artists at that time, along with Wu-Tang and a whole bunch of other artists from the 90s and shit. But he come bumping Tupac. Now I would have rather Tyson came with the white cut off shirt bumping Welcome to the Terror Dome by PE. That's, what I mean, maybe it would have gave me that more of a feel more confident. But Tyson came to the ring kind of somber. I mean, he looked ready. He looked fierce and ready to go, because he came into the ring to Tupac. Let me see, toss it up. Tupac bumping. I'm pumped up. The fight party, we all pumped up. Mike coming. Mike about to destroy Holyfield. Mike gets in the ring. He just glares over at Holyfield, trying to intimidate him. Not gonna work. While he doing that, and then it's funny, because when he did that, Holyfield got serious. Like, his tone changed as the introductions went on a little bit, and you could tell that Holyfield was serious, man. Before the fight, he wasn't scared at all, and that glare shit didn't work. And Tyson wasn't doing the old Mike, how Mike would be in the corner during the introductions, and he'll be throwing combinations and moving his head. He's sweating already. You could tell he's just ready to fucking go. He's ready to fight. He's, they got him oiled up. He's just ready to go. It didn't seem like that. It just seemed, he was kind of pacing back and forth. He was ready to fight. Don't get me wrong. I'm not making excuses. He was ready to fight, but it just wasn't how I seen him in the late 80s type of thing. He was just pacing back and forth. And when the fight started, you knew he was ready to fight, because the first significant punch came, 5-6 seconds later. Tyson landed a good right hand on Holyfield that would have put a lot of guys down. Alex Stewart, all them type of dudes would have just fell over. And Tyson hit Holyfield. Holyfield took it, stumbled back a little bit, regained his defensive posture, and got ready to go. And backed Mike ass up immediately. Like, he let Mike know, like, you're not backing me up. Not tonight. We know how the fight went from there, man. I'm just looking at it from just a huge fan of Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield's perspective, point of view. So I'm leaving out a lot of things. I'm not covering every single thing, but just doing a vid on Showtime rebroadcasting, and thought it was cool. Leave your comments, man. YTBC. I'm out.